Hi, everybody. Luke Thomas here, one half of the hosting duo for Morning Kombat. Of course, Brian Campbell will be here throughout the course of the week to give you lots of coverage, but there is a fight tomorrow. I want to give you just a really brief preview for it, something to think about when you watch the main event, the welterweight main event for UFC, I think Fight Island 8, between Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny. I'm going to give you one thing for Michael Chiesa to pay attention to, one thing for Neil Magny, and then one thing about what the fight means in terms of the stakes, okay? So thumbs up on the video, hit that subscribe button. All right, what are my series of one things, which I guess makes three, but individually, what are my one things? I'll explain. First, let's talk about Michael Chiesa, right? What's my one thing for him? To me, it's the takedown. I'm not sure if this is a winnable fight. Frankly, I'm not sure to what extent he can win in the UFC really without a sustained takedown effort. And in fact, he's averaging 3.68 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is very, very high. In fact, in his last three fights, he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's hitting multiple takedowns, 4 or 5 in certain cases, and maybe even more a little bit, but a lot. He's done a lot of big-time work with the takedown. It really is the key to success for him. Now, he has had fights where he's had only 2 takedowns and won, but he's never had a fight where he had 3 takedowns and lost. He has had one where he had 2 takedowns and lost. So 2 has been a bit of the dividing line. But remember, his average is 3.68. So to me, what you want to look for with Michael Chiesa is, can he get the takedown? I suspect that he will. The takedown defense of Neil Magny is, I think, historically around 59% or so. Not especially high. He does get taken down. Now, he does get back up. And in fact, if you look at Michael Chiesa, if you've got a situation where you're getting, 5, 6 takedowns, that means the fight is going a long time, and they're able to get back up during that space. You have to sort of get him back down again. Something to pay attention to. But if he's able to get that takedown and then maintain it, right, sort of he's able to win rounds that way, that's obviously going to be great for him. But what you're going to pay attention to is if the takedown is missing or hard to come by, or he's really draining himself, or he's taking punishment along the way, I think that's going to be really a bit of a problem for him. So for me, if you're a Michael Chiesa, this fight kind of hinges on getting the takedown, maintaining top control. It doesn't do a ton of ground and pound, only averaging just a little bit over 2 strikes per minute. So it's not a heavy load. He does have a positive differential. He gets hit even less, which is great. So obviously he spends a lot of his time in these scenarios where guys can't really attack him because they have to worry about the takedown. But suffice to say, what we're looking for there is the takedown. Can he establish it? Can he maintain it? Can he do it over the course of rounds if he's not able to get a submission finish? There are a couple of those that Magny has suffered, Demian Maia and Rafael dos Anjos, as recently as 2017. But in general, he's going to be a little bit on the harder side to submit, especially with, I think, consistent ground and pound, although one never really knows. So the takedown for Michael Chiesa, that's my one big thing for him. What about Neil Magny? All right, my one big thing for Neil Magny, I'm going to call it activity. It's a little bit hard to summarize in one very easy kind of way other than to say, I do think he's probably going to get taken down in this fight. Now, how often and how regularly? We're going to have to see. But is it going to happen probably at least once? Yes, there's been many fights, including like the Anthony Rocco Martin fight, for example, where Magny was spending a lot of time fighting off the takedown with his back along the fence, trying to get, in a position where he could get back to his feet. I think Li Jingliang took him down twice, right? So he gets taken down. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you able to take his back and hold it? Are you able to keep his back pinned to the mat? That seems to actually be a much more difficult task. I think that's honestly where this fight is probably going to be won and lost. But I said activity for Neil Magny. Here's what I mean. He averages just shy of 4 strikes landed per minute, a lot of it behind his jab. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage here. To me, he is going to have to fight off the takedown. He's going to have to fight off being taken down and getting back up. But the thing I'm looking for is, 1, the ability to do that. 2, I think having that jab consistently pumping, especially in the center, is going to make those entries for Chiesa even harder. And I think 3, the thing I'm looking for is how he fights along the fence line, because he's going to get pushed there. He's probably going to get taken down. He's probably going to be able to get back up too. And it turns out fighting along the fence line, which you saw in the fight with the Leech or Martin, and even to an extent Robbie Lawler as well, he's very, very good in that clinch space. He's good about firing knees up the middle. He's good about tying up arms. He's good about getting his back off of it and turning him. Another key point about his overall level of activity, right? Really mixing it up, fighting defensively when he has to, and then adding in, so minimizing the bad positions and then using effectively at different ranges all the different tools that he has. The last key to that is his level of activity actually goes up through the fight. It doesn't even just stay the same, which is hard to do. Here's what I mean. There's a consistent pattern in his striking where he'll land not too many strikes in the first round, sometimes 10 to 15 or so. But by that third round, his numbers have often tripled. You'll see several fights where he'll throw and land 12 significant strikes in the first and then 36 or 38 sometimes in the third. So if Michael Chiesa is going to get a win, he either has to ride out a third and win the first two, or he's going to take that third away from him, right? But you have to disrupt that pattern one way or the other. So to me, using his well-rounded skill set, I think really getting the jab going, really making use of that fighting along the wall, clinch space there. Not clinching in the open, mind you. Clinching up against that fence. You're probably going to get taken down. How long are you going to spend there getting back up? That overall level of activity, I think, is going to be draining for anyone. And I know Chiesa's up at 170, and it's going to be a better weight class for him. Still, if you got a guy just as busy as this guy is in the multiple dimensions that he is, working behind the jab, working to get underhooks to stand up, you collar tying on the clinch, pushing you up against it, throwing knees, that kind of a thing where there's no real space to rest with him. I think that's what I mean when I say a level of activity. And round over round, he's turning the heat up every single time. That's what I'm looking for from Magny. If you see the level of output stay basically the same round over round, that's probably going to be a problem. If he gets taken down and can't get back up, that's obviously going to be a problem. And even if he does, if you see him with his back spent too long on the fence line versus the opposite, where he's pushing Magny into it, Chiesa into it, that's a big deal. The other thing to mention here is also him going for takedowns. Going for takedowns and getting takedowns is a big part of Magny's game. So I'm looking for a level of overall activity, whether it's striking, whether it's clinching, whether it's getting up off a takedown, whether it's going for a takedown himself, and then using that round over round to do more and more and more. Just doing more, I think, is the key. The way to slow down Magny is you have to make him do less, and that is very, very hard to do. Okay, so what's the one big thing that is involved in the stakes? The last part of this is, as I mentioned, what does it mean for the division? These two guys are ranked 8 and 9. To me, if you're looking at this fight, it is a question of, is one of these guys capable of being a top fiver? Now, I don't know that they automatically move into that space if they win, but it kind of tells you if you lose, you're not really ready to even be considered for that kind of a thing. 8 and 9, you're still on the back end of from 6 to 10, right? So you probably move into that 7 or 6 spot. You may not move necessarily into 5, but at that point, you are a real contender to move past that. If you look at the wins that they have, let's say the last 3 for each, the best one is probably the last one that both of them have. In the case of Chiesa, it's Rafael dos Anjos. That's a real win, but a bit of a smaller guy at 170. And then you go and look at what Magny did against Robbie Lawler. That was a pretty dominating performance, but Lawler's probably closer to the end of his career than I think some might imagine. And so those are great wins, but they're not the kind that tells us they're ready to go and really take on the young bucks in dominant form at the upper echelon of that division. Not just yet, but a win over one of these guys, whoever ends up getting it, pushes themselves into that space, or knocking on the door to get into that space. I think really that's what this is about. Okay, so let's see what happens tomorrow. Those are the things I'm looking for. I know it's quick, I know it's brief, but want to do something for you. I hope this helps at least a little bit. All the information is provided by Fight Metric. I'll put a link to their breakdown, or at least their statistical comparison, in the comments. And until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Thumbs up, hit subscribe. Enjoy the fights.